Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. We could finally get the matchup that all South African fans have been waiting for, and that is Henry Pollock versus the Springboks after Steve Borthwick officially announced his squad for the Nations Championship. And the prodigious youngster has been named in the squad, as well as Benhard Janse from Rensburg, who officially receives a call up to a test squad for the first time. And when he becomes eligible just after the Springbok game, he will not face the Springboks. He'll not be eligible at the time. He can get capped and become a full test player, which I think is the plan for Steve Borthwick, who has been very impressed with the South African. But I think a lot of South Africans will look at the squad, see one big name, and be very excited to see what Henry Pollock can do against South Africa, because he hasn't faced South Africa whilst coming through the rise and earning a bit of a reputation across the rugby world. He's played a lot of different teams, but South African fans in particular seem to have taken a bit of exception to the youngster, and I think they'll be very much looking forward to seeing what he can do in front of them when he takes on the Springboks at Ellis Park in a couple of weeks' time. Before we get to the squad, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. This is what Steve Borthwick has named, and a couple of debutants in there, including, obviously, as mentioned, Benhard Janse from Rensburg. And I personally am quite chuffed for Benhard Janse from Rensburg. You know, he's not apparently part of the Springbok plan, which is quite interesting when you look at the centres at the moment. We've got Damon Delindi, Andre Esterhuizen, and Jesse Creel. I mean, world-class centres. You've got Kane Moody as an option. Nola Kanya deemed surplus to requirements. You know, Henk van Beek, you're in Julius in the background. So there's definitely options, but you look at the form and the consistency that Benhard Janse van Rensburg has had in the last few years, and I continue to be surprised as to why he kind of doesn't get that call-up. But for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. And you know, the Springboks lost his England's game. He's been very good in the Premiership, and he has officially called a pretty controversial call-up with lots of former England players, for example. It was Danny Kerr coming out saying that he shouldn't really be playing. It sends a bad message for England youngsters, but I just think that's the reality of where the game is going. And they will depart for South Africa towards the end of the week with England and arrive here to start training sort of Monday, Tuesday. Borthwick said that he selected a squad with a good blend of experience and emerging talent, saying that the Nations Championship presents an exciting challenge for this group. We will face a strong opposition in demanding environments with extensive travel and changes in climate, all testing the squad throughout the tournament. I'm sure by preparing well and continuing to demand the highest standards from one another every day, we'll be well placed to meet the challenge of a very demanding summer schedule. So in terms of the 5 uncapped players, it is Noah Kaluri, Greg Vasiliau, Benhard Janse van Rensburg, George Kloska, and Vilekese Sela. The squad will be captained by Jamie George. Good player, Jamie George. And it's a decent squad. I don't think it's a squad on the back of the Six Nations which scares a lot of Springbok fans, for example, because I think that England were exposed during the Six Nations. They didn't have a particularly good Six Nations. I think everybody kind of thought they were prepped to win it, and then it didn't happen. And now it's kind of a bit of an anomaly, really. I think we kind of don't really know what to expect from this England squad. They're good players in the squad. You know, somebody like an Emmanuel Faye-Wabosa, for example, I think he's a top player. Tommy Freeman, we know the kind of pace he's got. You know, you've got Marcus Smith. He hasn't quite been able to sort of find that consistency or position, really. George Ford struggled a little bit last week, Friday. So the back line, for example, I think is a bit of hit and miss at the moment. The pack is where, you know, that'll be the big challenge for them, you know, whether they can match the Springbok pack. And a big name over there, as mentioned earlier, is Henry Pollock. Now, I quite enjoy watching Henry Pollock play. I think he's a tremendous player. I think he's really talented. He's definitely one of the next big things in World Rugby. Yes, he might have not had some phenomenal games at internationals where he might have been able to sort of contend with the reputation, but he's also had some really good games at international level where he scores tries for fans, he makes an impact, he comes on in the second half and looks trying to up the ante. So he's the perfect type of foil, really, for the Springbok bomb squad. You know, when we kind of launch our second half effort, if he comes off the bench, you know, that'll be the big sort of talking point. And it's been interesting because he's been the topic of a couple of jabs from former players. Dwayne Vermeulen, for example, has mentioned he'd love to come out of retirement to have a go at him. Schalk Burgers kind of likened him to a bit of a TikTok dancer because he's very much new age. You know, he's young. He is the TikTok era, and he's very big on the social media. He's quite quirky character, I think is one way of putting it. But a lot of people say he kind of plays to the camera, and that he kind of a bit. We sort of talked about that fake energy with England, you know, the celebrations, the kind of the moments, and Jamie George sort of likened him, saying he's a bit of an idiot, but he's our idiot, and he's kind of got that very out there personality where you either like him or you don't like him, and I think plenty of South African fans have decided they don't. But at the end of the day, we're going to judge him on his rugby ability when he arrives here. And I think that he's got lots of that. So it's going to be a nice little sort of bit of a sideshow, really, because it has been a long time in the coming. We haven't been able to he hasn't played against us. We didn't play against last year. So we haven't faced him, really. And, you know, performing against the Springboks is becoming a bit of the gold standard, really, now. It's about whether you can do it against the best opposition. You know, had a tremendous final where he helped lead Northampton Saints to the Premiership trophy. So you look at his accolades, you know, he's a British and Irish line, you know, was the youngster last year when he was called up, won the Prem now. England caps, quite a few England caps already to his name. He will go to the World Cup squad in the current career trajectory. He's really come up very, very well. But because of the big personality and the slightly controversial moments, some of the videos they put out and the likes of that, there's a bit of a stigma attached to him, that he's a bit pretentious sometimes, I think, was what some people sort of describe him as. And I think that we need more personalities like this, because especially the sort of the divisiveness, it creates conversation. Anything that creates narrative, creates conversations, creates a bit of hype is good for the game. You know, I really enjoy those kind of stories and the likes of that. So it's going to be an interesting sort of subplot towards the game. Personally, I think I look at the squad and I'm more interested to see what Benhard Janse is going to do. You know, I'm more interested to see how the front row copes. You know, the likes of a Joe Hayes and what he can do. You know, and Asher Apoku-Forger, the youngster over there, what can he do? I'm very interested to sort of see, you know, that somebody like a Tom Curry. Obviously, we've also got history with Tom Curry and the Springboks, so that'll be a big part of it. There's definitely a big rivalry between the Springboks and England, and to play them at Ellis Park in a couple of weeks' time is a bit of a cauldron for them to come and try and perform. And on the back of a poor Six Nations, there'll be a lot of pressure on this England side to perform. What do you think of the squad, especially as South African fans? Which of these players are you excited to watch? Which of these players kind of make you nervous, inverted commas, going into a game? Kind of which of these players you kind of need to shut down on the day? And what do you make of the whole Henry Park situation? He was even asked, you know, why does South Africans, inverted commas, hate him? And he kind of said, I don't really know, but I'll just keep doing me. I'll just keep winning trophies and kind of doing my thing. So it's going to be definitely part of it. And I think that's exciting. It kind of adds a bit of flavor to the match itself. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.